Okay, guys, I gotta stay quiet. We're covering the poison type today, the most toxic type, and if there was ever a time for anyone to make a guest appearance, it would be this type. I just have to be very quiet, and we can cover the types. Nobody wants to hear a terrible New York accent, so let's do this quickly.
Hey, did someone say toxic?
Shh. Yep, we're going over another type to find out how Pokemon Sword and Shield fix anything from the type, while looking back at how stupid and demanding I was when we went over the type last year. So with that, let's dodge a toxic, on our way to finding out how Pokemon Sword and Shield fix the poison type. We gotta do this quick, so let's look at all the new poison type Pokemon. Galarian Weezing looks a lot like Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. Eternatus is a Pokemon that someone will hack in the Gmax form and use illegally, then get banned. Toxtricity looks like a member of a punk rock band from Scotland. As for Gmax forms, we have quite a few wildcards. Eternatus we already covered because I already got ahead of myself. Toxtricity loses the ability of being a bipedal Pokemon. Garbodor was the real wildcard. And that's all the new Pokemon, and oh he just took off his shoes. What's worse than one type getting no new moves? Two types getting no new moves. This is legit the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It only was a problem for one type last generation, the fighting type, and now it's happened to at least two. The poison type is now the second type to have no new moves other than the D-Max moves of Malodor and Max Ooze.
Oh man, I love this new place. You even have some delicious bananas.
Hey! I didn't even pay for those! Unlike the last few types, the poison type is actually very relaxed in terms of new updates for old Pokemon. This definitely will save some time here. Venusaur gets 4 new moves, Earth Power being the most useful. Vileplume gets 2 new moves, Pollen Puff being the standout, as it gives it great bug coverage. Gengar returns with 5 new moves, Nasty Plot and Sludge Wave being the most surprising. Quillfish for some reason gets 9 new moves, nothing really stands out though. Roserade with Life Dew and Weather Ball are new to the generation. Skuntank picks up 5 new moves, Nasty Plot looks pretty nice. Drapion gets 6 new moves, Leech Life looking pretty solid on it though. Toxicroak jumps into Gen 8 battles with 8 new moves. Cross Poison and Baton Pass might be pretty useful. Garbodor gets Cross Poison too. Salazzle receives 6 new moves. The most exciting one for me is Fire Lash, which I'll cover in a later video. And Toxapex gets 2 new moves, Hydro Pump and Cross Poison, though I'm not sure why you wouldn't use other defensive attacks over these two. Those poison types are looking pretty nice with these changes.
Hey, you doing predictions yet? I wanna laugh at you again.
Ah! Is he gone? Well, for now, yeah. So let's get to my predictions that I made last year. The first one covered that the poison type wasn't the main type in a type combination. It was all revitalized in Generation 6. And even in Generation 7, they introduced Pokemon that you would look at and think, oh no, those are some strong poison types. But in reality, that's just it. Those are only a handful of those Pokemon. This more or less was fixed slightly in Generation 8, mainly because you would see Galarian Weezing and get reminded of regular Weezing as well as Toxtricity being the feeling of him being both poison and electric. I have to say, maybe it's all in the color combinations. While the first prediction that I made was a decent shot, I definitely made a shot in the dark for the second prediction. I was once again trying to deal with the type matchups. Those never really go over very well. You know, bulky waters, right? Everyone doesn't like dealing with those guys, and in the past, I've thought about this issue as well. Really, the only type that makes sense in regards to being weak to something is the poison type. Just think about it. Polluted water is a bad thing. Now imagine if a water type got polluted. You think that wouldn't affect them? Yeah, while making the water type weak to poison would be great on paper, I don't think GameFreak will ever follow suit. While I do think that bulky waters should get nerfed, they probably have to get nerfed in another way.
You actually thought they'd change the type matchup chart? What kind of knucklehead idea is that?
The last prediction that I made, if I don't get rudely interrupted again, was that there were no physical attack between Poison Jab's 80 base power and Gunk Shot's 120 base power. And most types don't really follow that to a T, but the gap between Poison Jab and Gunk Shot just seems to be very open. 80 to 120 it just doesn't work because it's such a big gap. You can go from a decent attack with 100% accuracy to a strong attack with low accuracy. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, and I heard you say that GameFreak is bricks for brains and didn't do about it and created no new attacks.
Yeah, I know! That's my line! More or less, like I said earlier, and what the knucklehead here just said, with only D-Max moves introduced, the suggestion falls flat on its face. So the poison type score added up, we can see that it ends in 5th out of 6th place, with a score of 0.5. It narrowly avoids being last, and pretty much if any other type gets a score of 0, it'll be tied for last.
Yeah, because they all suck.
Don't get me started. The poison type is one of the few types left to have a lot of missing combinations. It has 6 left, which is 1/3 of all the combinations a type can have. Almost. And a lot of these are rather interesting combinations. Before Generation 8 began, the poison type had yet to be paired with the rock type, the steel type, the electric type, the psychic type, the ice type, and the fairy type. We got one type used here this generation, involving Toxtricity taking the poison and electric type off the board.
But what about Galarian Wheezing? It's a poison and fairy type.
Okay, yeah, numbnuts, but I always say that forms don't count since it's not a unique Pokemon. As for the missing Pokemon, we are missing 18 poison types. Among the biggest names missing are Nidoqueen, Nidoking, Crobat, Scolipede, and Amoonguss. We'll find out soon which of these may have come back in the Isle of Armor, as that DLC should be out by now by the time this video is finally published, 4 months from now, so we'll find out if any changes came through. I'm noticing a trend here. Certain types are being neglected for other types, and this is a lot more apparent and way worse than in previous generations. We've covered the last 2 types at the hardest, and let's hope no others deal with the same fate as the ground and poison types dealt with. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to end this video in a toxic state. But we can recover from this, and to recover our way back to the top to see more from this series or anything else, be sure to hit the subscribe button to join the squad today. With that though, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll get you back at the top later on, because that is how we do what.
Still using that dumb, cringy outro? What are you, 7?
Alrighty, I warned you. I have my own aluminum slugger. Get ready, cause your boy's up to bat!